Austintown, and welcome to the Coach's Corner, where we invite the coaches from Austintown Fitch High School of the different sports, and we talk about their activities and what's going on in the season. As we always do, our number one person for each of our years is our head football coach here at Austintown Fitch, Coach Annarella. Coach Annarella, you're the welcome to the show, and you're the dean. You should be the dean. We should call you the dean of football coaches around here.
Well, I've been called a lot of things, Ken. I don't know if dean's one of them. But
I'll tell you what, we look at your resume and how you've been so successful in so many places and so many leagues and so many other things, where are you from originally?
I'm from Newcastle, Pennsylvania. I was raised and born there, and pretty much have stayed in this vicinity over the years.
Well, it's so funny because the Mahoning Valley now includes Newcastle. And I can remember those days when I'm a little older than you. No, a lot older than you. But when you grow up in those towns, I grew up in Campbell, you were in Newcastle. If you were a male, you played football.
Oh, absolutely. Those were the days, Ken. They've changed a little bit since then, but that's when the mills were booming, and Youngstown and western Pennsylvania, and was just it was thriving.
And it was a good way for us to get to college.
Absolutely.
Do things like this. Let's talk about football in itself. We were talking before we started taping the show that in the past days, we would have 130, 140 kids coming out for football and that sort of thing. But now Austintown is still pretty good. I mean, you have a pretty good number that came out this last year.
Well, we do. The last couple of years, our numbers have gone up. I suppose winning helps do that. We are right around 84 players right now, 84 young men. And from what I'm hearing from other area schools, we're very fortunate because in a lot of the programs, the numbers are decreasing. And so we're working hard at maintaining those numbers. Our middle school coaches and freshman coaches do a great job of making it fun for the players, and we've kept our numbers up, and hopefully that'll continue. We'll have to wait and see.
We're going to come back to that because of the feeder programs that help you get started around here. Let's just not to leave this issue. There's so many reasons. Number one, we don't have athletes anymore that play 4 or 5 sports. You simply can't do it. You have to concentrate on one particular sport. But we were talking about other issues that are affecting the idea of students, boys or girls, playing sports.
Well, there's no question. Times have changed immensely. As you were saying way back when, in our day, it was just the norm to play some form of sports. And all kids did it for the most part. Nowadays, it's the exception. And for a variety of reasons. There's too many variables going out there. Some kids have to work, raise money for the family. Other kids just have other interests. They like to play the video games and everything else, and don't want to spend the time and energy to go out and ask what we demand. We're one of the last bastions of discipline. I always tell our players that they ought to be proud that they can come out and they're special. And I genuinely mean that when I tell them that, because it's, as I said, it's not the norm anymore to go out and do the hard work. And obviously, they're not getting paid for it. Their only pay is to win on Friday nights. And fortunately, we have a large number of young men are satisfied with that.
That's great. You always have said that sports is a molding. It's a molding, whether it's a female or a male. It's to help them mold into the character that should be in the rest of their lives. Winning and losing, to know that if you lost, work harder to try to win. When you win, be gracious about the winning and so on. And do you still feel that's the strong point of sports?
I don't think there's any question about it. That is the number one contributor to their overall experience. I think when they leave, whether it's our football program or one of the other sports here at Fitch, when they leave that program, They've learned how to work together with other individuals. They've learned good work ethic, that the only way to achieve success is through hard work. And just as you said a second ago, learning how to lose graciously, because you're not always going to walk off that field a winner no matter how much you want to. So I do think, and I think a lot of parents still agree with it, that playing sports does go a long way in helping their son or daughter develop as a human being. And we certainly try to stress that. We're real proud, Ken. We had, out of our 30 seniors, 11 of them were inducted into the National Honor Society here at Fitch this past spring.
Oh,
and boy, I can't say enough about that. And last year, our team GPA, the Ohio High School Athletic Association, rates, they ask you to submit your top 22 varsity lettermen, their GPAs for the first 9 weeks, and we were in the top 20 in the state of all high school programs with a 3.68 GPA. So you can be an athlete, you can get good grades, and you can learn how to be a gentleman and do things the proper way. And I do think coaches stress that and want to see that continue to develop as the young men progress through their program.
All of you out there who have played sports in the past, especially those of you that are in your 40s or 50s, let me tell you how sports have changed. I don't want to say that you can't. You better be a pretty smart person. Football and other things are so sophisticated now that you don't. This isn't just I'll go and hit you and you hit me and that's the name of the game. I walked in here and I thought I was in a computer lab. there's all the computers over there that you have to deal with in plays and so on, and the athletes have to know how to do that also.
Oh yeah, it's changed immensely since I first started coaching 200 years ago. We really and my younger guys are really on top of it. We breaking down things, the scouting part, and there is a tremendous amount of sophistication. From when we played, like you said, it was all
one-on-one.
Give the ball to the tailback, let him run up the middle, and see how many times. It was the old Woody Hayes philosophy. And now it is just so different. You have to be so prepared for all the variations that you may see during a game. And it has become much more sophisticated. The kids we'll be showing our guys more film here in a little bit on some of Harding's tendencies. So it has changed.
You have to go to work. Let's go back to the feeder program. Now we use the spread offense, and it works well for us. So do we start it at the junior high or whatever and bring them up so that they have that philosophy and that knowledge?
Yes. To put it very bluntly, our middle school coaches do a great job. They run the spread, they're in the shotgun, and that's a little difficult for them at times because sometimes you have a little trouble with snaps and things, but they've really adapted well. I'm really proud of them. And of course, then that gets them ready for our freshman program, and Coach Gessler does an outstanding job, has done for the last 7 years with our freshman program, and they're doing the same things we're doing. So what we try to do is just like any other program, Ken. Your math, as you come up through middle school and junior high, you refine their math skills and then start giving them a little bit more. And we're doing the same thing with our football program, keeping it very basic in the middle school, maybe advancing a little bit more with the freshmen, and then, of course, refining it even more when they get to us. So we treat it just like a classroom setting, and it's worked okay up to this point. We're hoping it continues.
You know, that's the problem. The problem in many cases, when you start becoming the program that is working well, Now everyone expects it.
Absolutely.
And then the pressure is unbelievable, not just on the coaching staff, obviously on the students also. I love some of the comments you made. I read your comments in the paper and so on when you were asked about your stars. And you said, yes, there are some that are stars, but it's the supporting cast that really makes and breaks a football team. People understand that you look at stars because this kid could run and he runs 110 yards a game. But they forget about the guy in the front who's beating his brains out, opening that hole for him. How do we feel? Do we, although we have some starters back, not a bad situation. Where were we? Well, I don't want to give secrets away, but what did we have to look for to fill some holes?
Well, that's the thing right now. We're trying to develop that supporting cast, particularly on our offensive line. That is probably where we have the most inexperience. And just like you said, we can have excellent running backs and receivers or quarterbacks, but if that line's not doing their job, you're not going to be as effective as you could have been. And all you got to do is listen to any pro coach, college coach, other high school coaches. They're all going to tell you the same thing. It all starts on your offense and defensive lines, and you will have more success if they are going to perform at a very high level. Last year we had a few guys who really came through, and we had a very successful year, and hopefully we're going to get the right mix again up front. We're still tweaking that somewhat and looking for that right mixture, but guys are working hard, and they're trying to fill those roles.
We'll be looking at Ohio State to see Billy Price, and I'm not sure where Matt Folk is.
Matt Footcoast is at Clarion University.
Clarion, that's great.
And I know he'll be very successful there.
But we have to get the people in there to do the job. And once again in the paper it said. Well, Fitch High has 11 letter people coming back, and I loved your comment because it creates a different idea. The whole idea that a lot of those kids were there because you had injuries and they had to play, so therefore they got enough of their playing time, so they got a letter.
Right.
And they were all linebackers you were talking about.
Most of the injuries, the serious injuries we sustained were at linebacker. We had 2 or 3 shoulder separations. C.J. Martini, Brett Weidenthal. We lost C.J., I think, during the Boardman game the first half. He did not come back the rest of the year. We had a serious injury with Carell Johnson. He's responded very well with a knee injury. Brett's come back from the shoulder separation. So it was a little bit of a deceptive type of number because those guys were starters or did letter, but they may have only played 4 or 5 games. Mm-hmm. But I'll still take that they're back and they're healthy. And our defense right now is our strength. There's no question about it. We have 7 starters back on defense, and we're going to kind of rely on them somewhat until we fill those roles on the offensive line, and then the offense can start coming around. But we only have 3 starters back on offense.
We talked about the spread offense and so on, and that in itself takes a lot because those linemen have to be able to run just like your halfbacks have to run. But we run a 3-5 defense. Mm-hmm. To those of us who've been for a long time, we always thought about being the lineman, and I was the guy that had to make the tackle. Now I'm the guy that stalls everybody, so the linebackers. Is that basically the philosophy of the 3-5?
Well, the main reason we went to it early on here, and Coach Hurdley's done a fantastic job as our defensive coordinator, but the main reason is we've had more linebacker-type kids, and we've been, other than a Billy Price, we've been pretty small up front. When you see us play this year, you're going to say, wow, they're not very big at all. And I think our biggest defensive lineman out of those 3 guys weighs 205 pounds. Now, when you played, that was a little bit, we had bigger guys.
Yes, but not.
But so we're not big, so we've got to move, and we got to fly around and be in great shape. and that's what we kind of hang our hat on. We want 11 guys getting to the ball, so we're going to be lean and hopefully mean when we line up
like
defensively.
That. Okay. The so far you seem to be very cautiously optimistic that the players are doing well and the coaches are getting to them and maybe will be gelling. But you don't have time to gel.
No, we don't.
Well, I mean, this first game against Warren Harding, after we took them to task the first game last year, they went on to have a phenomenal season. And a lot of their players are back.
Well, and where their returners are on the offense and defensive lines, we're going to look like a junior high team when we line up against them. They're huge. They have several starters back on both lines. And in all probability, they're just going to try to do the old Woody Hayes stuff and line up and pound us because there's going to be a huge size differential. But with that being said, we got a lot of fight in our guys. And we were at a size disadvantage in most cases last year, again, other than Billy. But we seem to do okay defensively. So that's what we're kind of you just don't know, Ken, until you line up against another opponent in a true game situation. Scrimmages are nice. You can base a little bit on what you find out on what you think is going to happen with the team, but this Friday night will be our true test, and hopefully they're going to pass it with flying colors.
Well, I'll tell you what. I mean, you don't have any game film. You don't have any things about this year, what they're going to do and how they're going to do it. So it's going to be an adjustment as you go along.
Right.
And I have total confidence because I watched how you have in the last season your coaching staff being able to adjust. And that's a big thing in sports. I mean, it's just now you have a lot of other people. We had a Boardman and a Cardinal Mooney team that last year was not one of their greatest years, and that they're so unusual for them. And they're going to come out with fire in their eyes this year. So I'm looking for tough games there. And then there's always Massillon. Massillon, Washington is always a pain in the rear.
Well, there's no breathers. We know we've got our work cut out for us. One game at a time has always been our motto, and we're worried about the opponent at hand. But certainly, we know that the whole schedule is going to be a tough one for us. There's no question about it. Brunswick. Looking to make the playoffs again. They've been a playoff team. Last year they went 6-4, 7-3, and didn't quite make the playoffs. But they have traditionally been a playoff team. They're a much bigger school than us population-wise.
Oh, yes.
Dover is a traditional or perennial playoff team. Now they're in a lower division, but they're an outstanding program. Hoban has got a new coaching staff. They're looking to rebound, and Uniontown Lake has always been tough. So, plus the teams you mentioned, there's no breathers, and we've got to strap it up and be ready from week one on.
That's the problem. In many cases, people look at the teams, and those of us that deal with statewide teams know these teams like Brunswick and so on, and people don't understand that's a huge school.
Yes, it is.
It is. I mean, it's like playing Mentor, and
right. They're in the same league with Mentor.
They're huge schools, and when you have huge schools, you have huge amount of people that you could draw from.
Absolutely.
Well, Coach, I'm really looking forward to the season, as I'm sure you are. I know it's so tough, all the work that the coaches have to do prior to the boys showing up. And then all of a sudden you have to adjust things and you're practicing. Now the practice is over, and now the Friday night's coming on real fast.
Real fast, yeah.
How do you feel about the results of the scrimmages that you went through?
Well, overall, I think I've been pleasantly surprised. We held our own against Mentor, up at Mentor, and they've got 16 starters back off of a state semifinalist team. So last week, I don't think it was a typical Buchtel team. They were a little down. And we did pretty well, but I think that was a little bit because of their inexperience and youth. So again, you just don't know,
don't know.
until you line up on Friday night. And like you said, Harding is going to be licking their chops. I know they've had us marked on that calendar ever since their season ended. We were the one blemish in their regular season. So we better go up there and play well.
Hey, and you fans out there, football players respond to fans. So make sure that you're coming around and start screaming. Coach, good luck.
Thanks.
And hopefully you don't need luck with your talent and the talent of the boys. We're going to do well. But win, lose, or draw, you're doing a heck of a job there. And on behalf of all of us in Austintown, we're glad to have you here.
Thanks, Ken.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's our first Coach's Corner. Stay tuned for a few more coming up, and I'm sure we'll be back talking to Coach Annarella. Once again, you're at Coach's Corner in Austintown Community Television.
In association with Austintown Local Schools and Austintown Township.